It's been a while since I've talked about remote ink notarizations. That's what I want to do in today's video. I just finished performing a RIN notarization and thought this would be a good opportunity not only to talk about today's appointment, but also to bring you up to speed about changes and things that I am seeing. My name is Michelle. I've been a remote notary here in the state of Alabama since COVID. I'm now averaging about one or two remote notarizations a week. I know that's a small number. I'm sure some of you notaries will think, oh, that's not a lot. Um, it's enough for me. Um, One of the things about remote ink notarizations is that they do take quite a bit of time. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but just about four or five bullet points I'd like to cover with you. The most surprising thing about today's remote ink notarization is that the customer, when I ask them, how did you find me, said with a giggle that they asked ChatGPT to find someone for them. I was like, ooh, ChatGPT knows about me? They're like, yes, it does. So I was just mildly flattered, but I shouldn't have been surprised because I do have a presence on the internet. And this video here, most of you are viewing it on my YouTube channel. And so for those of you who are serious about becoming a Alabama remote ink notary, my advice to you is work on being searchable or being found on the internet. What was also interesting is that this customer, when they reached out to me, asked me very pointed, specific questions. That should have been a clue to me that AI was involved. I just thought this person did their research. They asked me, how long do I keep the recordings? They asked me about ID requirements, notarial certificate wording. So I think that was kind of like a quiz or a vetting that the customer used to make sure that they were hiring a notary who was knowledgeable about the process. So, to that end, I want to encourage you to really study Alabama's remote notarization laws to make sure that you can not only perform the notarization correctly, but also be able to answer your customers' questions and even anticipate the questions that they may be thinking or considering and just haven't asked you yet. And so if you are treating your notary business um, under an umbrella, under a rock, or just trying to stay on the down low and not be too loud or too well known yet, that's not going to work for remote notarization. Here's what I mean by that. Um, I do notarizations part-time. I have a separate full-time job, and it's important to me to keep those two things separate. So I'm pretty sure there are some of you who are in the same situation. You may not want the world to know what you're doing after work, but what I'm saying to you is that there's a downside to that. If you have not started your Google business listing, if you do not have a website, I'm saying to you, definitely for remote ink notarizations, your prospective customers are going to have a problem locating you. The customers that need this type of notarization, remote notarization, continue to be um, armed forces, enlisted armed forces, and also I am seeing an increased number of Alabama residents who are either permanently or temporarily living abroad in other states and other countries. Um, And so that is why they really need an Alabama remote notary, because they still have interests here in the state. And in order to manage those interests, there may be times when they need an Alabama notary. I was taking a look at some older videos that I recorded. If you don't know, I do have a separate YouTube channel, I think with 10 or less videos. I've just been focused on this channel this year, but on the Alabama Remote Notary channel, um, I would talk about the process and the laws of remote notarization. And a couple years ago, I shared that the biggest challenge for me has been satisfactorily satisfying, making sure the signer satisfies the identification requirements. I was hoping today, the beginning of October 2025, that I could say there was a different challenge. But that, I think, is still the biggest challenge. Keep in mind, with remote ink notarization, we have to see two forms of government issue ID. At least one of those IDs must have a photograph and the signature of the signer. And then after that, you can mix and match and be a little more flexible. And then there is the second step, which is checking public-private data sources. Um, and that's gotten a little more easier. I believe I talked about that in another video. But the reason why it still ranks high, the verification of ID, is for reasons you may not think. For today's notarization, the signer had to swap out 3 different cameras. They started off with a desktop computer and then moved to a laptop computer. And then the third one, I think, was a tablet or phone or some other device. And that is because on the first two hardwares, hardware, the camera was not able to focus sufficiently enough so that their ID was legible to me. Um, you could kind of make out the name, the driver's license number, but not really. It was very fuzzy, very unclear. And it took a while. In fact, this notarization lasted an hour and 22 minutes. I believe that is either the longest or the second longest that I've ever done. So, through that process of elimination to get to the right camera, it was important for me to be patient. It was important for the client to remain calm and not get flustered. They were very apologetic. Kept reassuring them it didn't matter. I did not need to be somewhere else. Today they were my last appointment, and it didn't matter to me how much time it took. I mean, this was a very important notarization or transaction, because all notarizations are important, but this was very important. It needed to get done. And I was able to reassure them that I was in it for the long haul with them. We were going to troubleshoot. And so the verifying ID not only means do they have the right driver's license, state ID, passport, etc. It involves, the whole process involves technology. So does the signer, who is probably in another state, oftentimes in another country, with different, is it ISP? I don't know. Internet services? Yeah, ISP. Glitches, problems are going to come up, and the remote notary needs to have time to help resolve those problems. So this is very different from a remote online notarization where you are working from someone's platform, who may be bringing customers to you. That's not my approach at all. I am independent. And so my platform is a video conferencing platform, and I should be the expert in helping the signer troubleshoot whatever is going on their end, and that does take time. I have instituted something new to the identification process, and I plan on instituting something else new, but I am very aware and concerned about deep fakes. I read a lot of articles, especially if they pertain to notaries, notarizations, and I just know there's software out there that can cause a signer to sound like someone else, look like someone else. And so for today's appointment, I let them know that I'd be closely observing their movements, the way they spoke, if their lips were syncing up with their voice, if it appeared they had a green screen behind them. I just put it out on the line. I said, I'm not targeting you. I am not being discriminatory. I am trying to protect my commission, and the true and and the individuals that you are purporting to be. So, and they understood. They were very comfortable with the gymnastics that I put them through so that my concerns could be put aside. Another challenge is performing this type of notarization for individuals who are not U.S. citizens. If they have not spent time in the U.S. and did enough business transactions so that there are public and private data records under their name, then I'm not able to move forward. I ran into this recently on two occasions. On one occasion, the signer was a minor, and that explained why I wasn't able to pull some records. So we had to do a workaround with that. And another challenge is, as you may know, there are some US citizens who are choosing to live off grid. And so they are taking steps to reduce their footprint, online footprint. So, I said to one customer, this, your decision, which is definitely your decision to make, could mean this type of notarization is unavailable to you at this point in time. So again, these are just a few of the challenges that come up during a remote notarization. I am checking my notes. A new challenge, and when I say new, I'd say in the last year, I'm running into mailing issues. So in the past, it didn't matter on my end, the recipient's end, and even the shipper's end, whether I used FedEx, UPS, US Postal Service, DHL. My experience has been it really didn't matter. If I sent something overnight, it would get there overnight. Now, let me be honest, USPS overnight, it's been a challenge for me from a business standpoint for several years. And so I would just always let the customer know, even though you're paying for overnight, you'll have the tracking number, there's a good possibility it could take 2 to 3 days. But now I'm seeing delays across the board. Um, DHL does a lot of the international mail delivery for me and my customers. And I was really disappointed when not too long ago, DHL entered a status and said, well, tracking information, and said that I had received it and I hadn't received it. It took an extra 3 days because to find it, and come to find out, they put it in a mailbox on Friday and it did not get picked up until Monday. So that was stressful. That was stressful for me. It was stressful for the customer because keep in mind, everything is through the computer. Customers are trusting that I am who I say I am, and I'm not playing games with them. Um, this type of notarization isn't cheap, and so there is a lot at stake. And so FedEx is still coming out on top as far as getting the original documents where they need to be on time. But again, it has not been perfect at all. I used to use UPS without any issue, and the cost was usually less than FedEx, but things are changing. Not only for all of the carriers is it taking longer to get from point A to point B, the package is arriving in poor shape. And yes, sometimes that's the fault of the shipper, but the way some of these packages have arrived, it appears to be damaged some of the time in transit. And then I mentioned the tracking information. It's not getting updated as quickly as it should, and it's not always stating what actually happened. I may have my first IOU or collection. This will be the first time since COVID that I've had a customer use my services and not pay the full amount. That's not tonight's customer. Um, Not pay the total amount due as outlined. So that will be interesting for me to see if I am able to collect with the customer not being located in the state of Alabama. I'll be sure to update you on that. I'll say more about that again later. I'm almost done here. I wanted to make a blanket statement about the importance of relationships with this type of notarization. And I said, all right, Michelle, you can't just throw a statement out there and without backing it up. So I hopped online and I just did a Google search. I said, how important are relationships when it comes to small business owners? And the Forbes Business Council did an article back in June 6, 2022. The article is called Why Building Relationships is Essential to Business Success. And I'm just going to say it, Forbes Business Council agrees with me. It is critical. And I'm tying this back to how long it takes to do remote notarizations and everything that's involved, the trust, the time, the importance of it being accurate. Even though today's notarization took an hour and 22 minutes, I had a great time. The customer had a great time. I know that because the customer told me they had a great time and how much they appreciated me. I don't have the big head. I'm just telling you what happened and what was said. I'm confident that when this customer has anything else notary related that needs to be done, I'm going to, especially while they are remote, I'm confident I'm the first person they're going to call. If if and when they run into other Americans or former Alabamians while they are remote who needs the any of the services that I offer, I am confident they are going to recommend me. Why? Because during an hour and 22 minutes, that's a lot of time to fill, a lot went on. We talked about more than just show me your ID, sign right here, take an oath. So I want to encourage you to, if you if you have been so far very transactional with your notarizations, that's good as far as making sure you dot your I's and cross your T's, but that approach may not be relationship building or um, provide a fertile environment for building business relationships. So keep that in mind. I am fine. I spoke with another notary right after I was done with this notarization, and they asked me, wow, I'm thinking about doing those. How many, do you do? And are you busy? And is it good to you? These are my words, not theirs. And I was honest. I let them know. Some months I'll do two a week. I know not too long ago I struggled and did three a week because there is a lot of prep time and lead time and the Q&A and the vetting and then the actual notarization, and then waiting for the documents to arrive and return. So during that time, that's where the relationship building occurs. And try not to take it lightly because these are individuals, again, that not only can refer business to you, but can and will complete a review for you. And if you need, for other reasons, a reference, these would be individuals who may be willing to do that for you as well. If you are an Alabama notary public who is interested in learning more about performing Alabama approved remote ink notarizations, I want to encourage you to watch not only this video, but the other videos that I have on my Alabama remote notary or notarization channel. I should know the name of that channel. I also have a website, alabamaremotenotary.com. I've got some links to videos on there. Make sure you check them out. Aside from that, use this time now to become an expert on Alabama notary laws for traditional notarizations and for remote notarizations. The biggest aspect of a remote ink notarization involves the same steps you take for in-person traditional notarizations. You've got to know that part first. You've got to know it inside out, upside down, because you're being recorded. So become an expert not only on Alabama notary laws, but also on Alabama notary best practices. What are you going to say if someone shows you an expired ID? Can you accept it? What if they don't have ID? Can you use a credible witness? What about blue ink versus black ink? What about questions about documents that need to be filed? Do you have contacts at the probate office or the circuit court that will give you accurate answers? Does an attorney need to be present with you, remotely or near you if you're handling real estate documents for Alabama property? All of these things you need to start thinking about and get answers to so that you are prepared when it comes time for you to perform your first Alabama remote ink notarization. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have questions about this type of notarization. Just put it in the comments below. I am pretty good at responding to all questions, but while I've been talking, I remembered I promised someone I'd have a video up this weekend answering a question. So I'm going to make sure that I do that next. I really appreciate you watching my videos. I am this close to having 1,000 subscribers. Those of you who have subscribed, thank you. Thank you so much. Now, I'm still not at the point where I have enough watch hours to be, I don't even want to call it monetized. Um, yeah, because that's not it. There's a level before that that is my goal that will allow me to have a YouTube community for subscribers to make it easier for us to communicate back and forth. And so that's what my goal is. And so if you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed yet, I'm asking if you would do that for me and continue supporting by watching the videos. If there's a topic that I haven't covered yet related to notarizations, let me know and I'll make every effort to cover that for you. Again, thank you for watching and make it a great day.